Welcome to Lento English. Ready to level up your English? Here we learn through stories, slow, clear, and fun. Listen, relax, and enjoy the journey.
One introduction. It was a normal afternoon in the district of Tai Po. People were working or resting in their homes. This area is in the northern part of Hong Kong. Suddenly, the peaceful time ended. Smoke began to rise high above the city. The smoke came from a large housing complex called Wang Fuk Court. This was not a small fire. It was a very big disaster. Wang Fuk Court is made up of many tall residential towers. These towers are 32 stories high. They were built a long time ago in 1983. Almost 2,000 apartments are in these buildings. Over 4,600 people live there. The community was tightly packed. When the fire began, people realized they were trapped high up in the buildings. The fire started and spread quickly across the complex. The fire alarm level went up very fast. It reached a number 5 alarm fire. This is the highest level of emergency in Hong Kong. The smoke was black and thick. It covered the sky above the buildings. The fire burned for a very long time. It burned for more than 24 hours. Firefighters worked hard to stop the flames. The scale of the event was huge. 7 separate towers caught fire. The buildings looked ruined and damaged. This event brought great sadness to the city. This fire caused extreme damage and loss. Many people lost everything they owned. Their homes were destroyed. The tragedy led to a high number of casualties. Authorities later confirmed the sad news. 55 people died in the fire. 72 other people were hurt. Some people died inside the complex. Others died later in the hospital. The fire became the deadliest such event in Hong Kong for many decades. It was a time of great pain for the families. They waited for news about the missing residents. The destruction meant that many people needed help immediately. About 900 people had to sleep in temporary shelters. The city faced a major crisis. This story is about the day the fire started. It is about the devastation that followed. It is a story about great loss, but also about the people who survived. 2. The fire starts. The tragic events began on a Wednesday afternoon. The time was 2:51 p.m. local time. This is when the first reports of a major fire started coming in. The fire erupted at Wang Fuk Court, a large housing complex in the Tai Po district. The complex was made up of very tall residential towers. Each tower was 32 stories high. At the time the fire started, the buildings were undergoing renovation work. Workers were fixing the outside walls of the towers. The weather conditions that day made the situation extremely dangerous. Hong Kong had been under a red fire danger warning since Monday. This warning meant there was an extremely high risk of fire because the air was dry and warm. When the fire first broke out, it spread with unusual speed. The blaze quickly moved from one tower to the next. The complex had 8 towers in total, and within a very short time, the flames had engulfed 7 different towers simultaneously. This rapid spread was shocking and unexpected. Investigators later focused on the materials used during the renovation. The tall towers were covered in bamboo scaffolding. This scaffolding was wrapped in green protective netting. Experts believe these materials acted like a path, helping the flames jump quickly between the buildings. The netting carried the fire over the distance separating the towers. The speed of the fire was much greater than usual. Security officials noted that protective materials on the external walls did not meet proper safety standards. They burned too easily. Also, some glass windows had been sealed with styrofoam boards. These boards spread fire very easily when they were exposed to intense heat. As the fire grew, thick smoke covered the entire area. Residents inside the tall towers quickly realized they were trapped. Police started receiving many calls for help. People were stuck on the upper floors. The fire was moving up the 32-story buildings too fast for them to escape. Panic started among the thousands of people who called Wang Fuk Court home. For residents on the highest floors, escape became impossible very fast. They were surrounded by intense heat and thick, black smoke. They waited desperately for help, but the massive blaze was already out of control, turning the afternoon into a nightmare. 3. Fighting the fire. The fire was very big. It quickly became a number 5 alarm fire. This is the highest level of fire alarm in Hong Kong. The emergency response to the fire was massive. More than 1,200 firefighters went to the scene immediately. They needed 304 fire engines and rescue vehicles to help them. This was a huge effort. The government and the fire department worked together. They tried hard to stop the terrible fire from burning more homes. The fire was extremely difficult to control. It burned very hot inside the residential complex. The flames spread fast between the 7 towers. Firefighters battled the terrible inferno for a long time. They fought the fire for more than 24 hours straight. Even the next afternoon, thick smoke still rose from the damaged buildings. The air smelled strongly of burned plastic and materials. Firefighters sprayed water from multiple high aerial ladders. They worked without rest to control the fast-moving flames. Firefighters faced many serious challenges. The intense heat made rescue work almost impossible. The thick smoke made it hard to see and breathe inside the towers. It was especially hard to reach people trapped high up in the 32-story buildings. Firefighters struggled to climb to the upper floors. They knew many residents were still trapped inside the burning homes. This was dangerous work for every person involved. They kept working hard to save lives in difficult conditions. Sadly, the massive rescue operation cost 1 life. A firefighter named Ho Wai-ho died. He was 37 years old. Ho Wai-ho was a dedicated and brave fireman. He was one of the first people to help fight the massive fire. He had worked for the Fire Services Department for about 9 years, serving the city bravely. He was found collapsed at the scene due to the extreme heat and smoke. He was taken to the hospital, but he died there. The department was deeply saddened by the loss of this brave and gallant man. Slowly, after many hours of fighting, the firefighters started to win the battle. The fire had spread quickly to 7 towers in the complex. By the afternoon after the fire started, officials finally announced progress. The fires in 4 of the 7 burning towers were finally extinguished. The flames in the other 3 towers were brought under control. Firefighters continued to spray water and secure the entire area. The long fight to stop the destruction was tiring, but their courage helped save many people. 4. The sad news. The fire stopped burning, but the terrible news began. People waited anxiously for updates about their family members and neighbors. Authorities confirmed that the loss of life was very high. The total number of people killed in the disaster was 55. 72 other people were injured during the fire and the rescue operations. 51 people died at the scene, and 4 others died later in the hospital. The scale of the tragedy was immense. The Wang Fuk Court complex was home to more than 4,600 people. The fire affected every single person living there. Many of the victims were elderly residents. Statistics showed that about 1/3 of the residents in the complex were 65 years old or older. The fire was especially dangerous for these older residents who may have had trouble escaping quickly. Families felt deep grief. They waited for hours, hoping for news of the people who were still missing. This waiting was very difficult and filled with fear. For those who survived, the sadness was mixed with the shock of losing everything they owned. People watched as their homes, filled with memories and belongings, turned to ash. One resident, Mr. Wan, spoke about his terrible loss. He had lived in the building for more than 20 years. He said, "All of our belongings were in this building, and now that it has all burned like this, what's left? There's nothing left. What are we supposed to do?" His words showed the profound impact of the fire. Survivors now faced the challenge of starting their lives again with nothing left. Because so many homes were destroyed, the government quickly opened temporary shelters. About 900 people needed a safe place to sleep immediately after the fire. They received help and support from officials. This fire was one of the worst events in Hong Kong's recent history. It was the deadliest fire the city had seen in many decades. Officials compared the tragedy to a huge warehouse fire that happened in 1948. In that older fire, 176 people were killed. The fire at Wang Fuk Court was a reminder of the extreme danger that fire poses in a densely populated city. The sadness spread across the city as people mourned the 55 lives lost. 5. Why it happened. The search for answers began immediately after the flames were controlled. Investigators needed to understand why the tragedy at Wang Fuk Court was so deadly. They focused on the materials used during the renovation work. The complex was covered in scaffolding and netting, which experts said was key to the rapid spread. The fire did not just burn one tower, it went quickly to 7 different towers. The bamboo scaffolding and the green protective netting around the buildings acted like a wick. They carried the flames from one structure to the next, making it difficult for firefighters to stop the spread. Security Secretary Chris Tang spoke about 2 unusual things. The first was the protective materials used on the outside of the towers, including waterproof canvas and plastic sheeting. He explained that when these materials caught fire, the speed and heat were much greater than materials that follow safety rules. This fast burning meant people had very little time to escape. The second problem involved the windows. Some glass windows had been sealed by workers using styrofoam boards. Styrofoam is a material that burns very easily when it is exposed to heat. This added to the danger inside the high-rise apartments. These materials did not meet necessary fire safety standards. The government promised to check if these protective materials were fire retardant. If they were not safe, legal action would follow. The police started a criminal investigation into the construction company that was doing the repairs. They believed that the use of these materials was careless and dangerous. Finally, the climate played a role. The city had been experiencing dry, warm weather. Officials had already issued a red fire danger warning, meaning the risk was very high. This dry air helped the construction materials burn even faster, increasing the overall danger for everyone living in the towers. The combination of unsafe materials and bad weather led to this massive disaster. 6. The government acts. The government acted quickly after the terrible fire. Police arrested 3 people. These individuals worked for the construction company. This company was doing the renovation work on the towers. Police suspected them of manslaughter. They looked closely at Prestige Construction and Engineering Company. This was the contractor hired for the job. John Lee, the leader of Hong Kong, spoke about the disaster. He said officials must look at the protective materials used on the outside walls. He promised legal action if the materials were not safe. Mr. Lee announced important safety checks. The government would immediately inspect all housing estates that were having major repairs. They needed to check the scaffolding and building materials. This was done to stop another fire from happening. Officials also promised help for the victims. Many people lost their homes and everything they owned. The government said it would give them temporary places to stay. About 900 people needed temporary shelters right away. The government also promised financial assistance. This money would help families start again. Security Secretary Chris Tang spoke about the criminal investigation. He pointed out 2 unusual things about the fire. One was the protective nets and plastic sheeting. He said these materials made the fire spread faster than safe materials should. The second unusual thing was the use of styrofoam boards. These boards sealed the windows and helped the fire spread easily when they got hot. To deal with the emergency, some normal activities stopped. Classes were suspended at several schools in the Tai Po area. The transport department closed some roads. More than 30 bus routes changed their path. Also, political campaigning stopped. This was because Hong Kong was preparing for a legislative election. The focus of the city shifted completely to dealing with the fire. The tragedy was important across the whole country. President Xi Jinping of China sent his condolences. He told Hong Kong officials to work hard. He urged them to use all-out efforts to reduce the losses and help the people. The government worked to show the city that safety was now the main priority. 7. People help others. The terrible fire brought great sadness to the city, but it also showed the strong heart of the people. The Hong Kong community reacted very quickly to help the thousands of residents who lost everything. People wanted to support their neighbors during this difficult time. Immediately, volunteers came to the area. These ordinary citizens started setting up simple relief points. These points were located across the street from the damaged towers at Wang Fuk Court. They did not wait for official orders. They just started helping their fellow citizens right away. People brought many important things for the survivors. They donated bottled water, bread, and other food. They also gave face masks to help protect people from the smoke that still filled the air. They carried these supplies in large bags and small carts. The teachers, workers, and students all came to give what they could. The volunteers worked very hard to organize all the incoming help. Many residents had nothing left after the blaze. These donations of basic items were very important for them. The kindness shown by the public was huge. One volunteer, Fian Ho, spoke about the amazing support. She noted that people from all parts of life brought items freely and without being asked. The generosity was so great that the relief points became completely full. They had too many things. Because of this, the volunteers had to stop accepting more donations for a time. This showed the depth of care the city had for the victims. The unity of the city was very strong in the face of this major trouble. The help was not only local. Other nations around the world sent messages of support. They showed their sadness and offered condolences to Hong Kong. For example, the United States Consul General sent a message saying they were deeply saddened by the tragic fire. Their thoughts were with the victims and their families. This global support was important for the city. The disaster was terrible and caused much loss, but the response from the community was a positive light. People helped neighbors they did not know. They gave time and essential goods. The city worked together to support the almost 900 people who needed temporary places to stay after the fire. The community showed great strength and compassion during this very difficult time. 8. Looking ahead. The massive fire had a high cost for the whole city. It was not just a cost for the people who lost their homes and belongings. Companies also faced serious financial problems because of the tragedy. For example, shares for China Taiping Insurance Holdings dropped quickly. This company provided insurance coverage for Wang Fuk Court. Their shares fell by as much as 8% on Thursday. This drop showed the significant cost of the tragedy to the insurance sector. Now the community must look ahead to the future. The road to recovery will be long and difficult. Many people lost everything they owned in the flames. About 900 people are currently staying in temporary shelters. The government promised to help these people. Officials will give financial assistance and temporary places to live. However, rebuilding the damaged towers will take a very long time. It will also take a long time to rebuild the lives of the thousands of residents who called the complex home. This disaster showed the great need for change. Fire safety experts believe the fire will lead to new and stricter safety rules in Hong Kong. The city is very dense, meaning it has many tall buildings close together. Safety during renovation work must be much better controlled. The use of materials that burn easily must stop. Protective items like bamboo scaffolding and green netting helped the fire spread far too fast. A combustion scientist named Huang Xinyan noted that fire safety in Hong Kong is usually good. But he said that covering an entire building with flammable scaffolding is too risky. He also suggested that new laws must consider climate change. Hong Kong had a red fire danger warning before the fire started. This meant the risk was extremely high due to warm and dry weather conditions. Building safety is critical in a city with 7.5 million people. When buildings are very tall and tightly packed, One small accident can become a huge disaster. The government must inspect all housing estates that are having major repairs. They need to check the safety of all building materials used. Legal action will be taken if construction companies do not follow safety standards. This is necessary to protect everyone who lives in these towers. The city will always remember the terrible tragedy at Wang Fuk Court. People will remember the 55 lives that were lost. They will also remember the great heroism of the rescuers. Firefighter Ho Wai-ho died while trying to save others. He was a brave fireman. The 1,200 firefighters who fought the huge blaze for more than 24 hours showed great courage. The most important lesson is that safety must always be the first priority to prevent such a terrible loss again.